Most lawyers, tax advisors, and consultants will never work internationally. Not because of opportunity, not because of intelligence, because they were trained to think locally. And if you don't change that deliberately, at some point in your career, we will reach a sailing much faster than you expected. I am Evelyse Ribas, and this is one of the clearest patterns I have seen across more than 20 years working across jurisdictions, institutions, and cross-border systems. If you are a junior, you were trained to pass exams, learn the law, and apply rules correctly with a specific legal system. If you are senior, you have built something more valuable, real experience, professional judgment, a track record, but mostly with one jurisdiction, one legal framework, one administrative culture, and that is not a weakness until you step outside it, because international work does not reward how well you know one system. It rewards how well you operate between systems. And those are genuinely different capabilities. One is built by going deep. The other is built by going across. Most professionals trainee only teach the first one. The moment you move into real international work, the ground shifts. You are dealing with legal frameworks that don't share the same logic. Tax systems built on different foundational assumptions, institutional behavior shaped by different political and administrative cultures, regulatory priorities that reflect very different national interests. And here, what that means in practice. The same structure can be legally acceptable in one country, questioned in another, and flatly rejected in a third one, not because of an explicit rule, but because of how authorities in each place interpret risk, intent, and compliance. Being technically correct is no longer sufficient. You need to understand how governments think, how authorities interpret and apply rules in practice, not just on paper, how incentives are actually designed, what they are trying to achieve, and how they behave in cross-border situations. That's a different level of work, and it requires a different way of thinking. After working across jurisdictions and with institutions at multiple levels, let me say this directly. The biggest gap in this profession is not intelligence, is not technical capability. It is the ability to operate internationally, to function effectively when you are no longer inside the system you were trained in. Most professionals analyze well, advise correctly, deliver solid work within their jurisdiction. But when complexity increases, when the structure crosses border, when stakeholders are operating under different frameworks, when there is no single authority to turn to, they don't know how to move. And this is where most people make the wrong choice. They think, oh, I need another degree, I need more years of experience, I need someone to give me the international opportunity. None of those are the real answer. You can have all of them and still be limited to one system. What actually shifts trajectory is different. How you think about the interaction between systems, what types of problems you are exposed to and how you handle them. Whether you can make decisions and move forward when the frameworks don't align. These aren't things that come from accumulating more credentials. They come from operating in environments that demand them. Let me be specific about what this means in practice. I have worked across tax incentives in sectors including culture and creative industries, film, research and development, infrastructure, digital assets, and others, at national, European, bilateral, and international levels. The work is never just technical analysis. It involves engaging with the authorities who have different risk tolerance and different interpretations of the same rules. Aligning stakeholders who operate under different legal logics, designing structures that have to work across regulatory environments that weren't built to interact. Moving projects forward when the system pushes back or simply wasn't designed for what you are trying to do. That is the operational reality. And most professionals, even very technically capable ones, are not prepared for it. Here's a simple way to locate where you are. Level 1. local operators. They apply rules correctly with one system, reliable, technically capable, valuable in their context. Level 2, technical experts. They understand complexity and can analyze it deeply with their domain. They know how systems work individually. Level 3, international operators. They connect systems. They anticipate conflicts between frameworks before they materialize. They make things work across jurisdictions not by finding the perfect legal answer, but by navigating the real constraints of real systems. Most professionals stay at level 1 or 2, not because level 3 is beyond them, but because reaching it requires exposure, judgment, and a willingness to take responsibility for outcomes, not just for advice. And most trainee environments never create those conditions. And here's the reality that makes this matter right now. The world is becoming more cross-border, more interdisciplinary, more driven by regulatory complexity, policy change, and frameworks that interact across jurisdictions. And the number of professionals who can genuinely operate at that level, who can connect systems, navigate institutional behavior, and execute across borders is still very small, which means the competitive dynamics are completely different at that level. Less competition, more demand, significantly higher value. And the gap is real. It is not closing, it's widening. At some point, the conclusion became clear to me. What I had learned through practice across real structures, real institutions, real cross-border challenges was not being taught. Not in universities, not in traditional professional trainees, not in most firms. And so I made a decision. Not to create more content, not to build another platform where professionals consume information they never apply, but to build an environment where lawyers, tax advisors, and consultants from different countries and disciplines work on real problems together, challenge each other's thinking, and actually execute across borders, across frameworks, across the kind of complexity that can't be learned in a classroom. Because that is the only way this level gets built. Let me give you something concrete. A cross-border project involving a digital asset structure, multiple jurisdictions, and a regulation environment that doesn't yet have settled rules. At level 1 or 2, you analyze that the law says in each jurisdiction, you identify the risks, you write the memo. At level 3, you anticipate how each authority is likely to interpret an evolving framework based on their institutional behavior, not just the written rules. You design the structure to reduce friction before it appears. You position the project so that when regulators engage, the narrative is already aligned with their priorities. Same project, same legal questions, completely different contribution. And the difference is not in more knowledge, it is a different way of operating. The future of this profession does not belong to the most qualified professionals. It belongs to those who can operate calmly, decisively, and effectively when systems don't align. That's a learnable capability, but it requires the right environment to build it. If you are just starting to exploring this topic, the free PDFs and frameworks are the right place to begin. They will show you exactly what operating at this level requires and where the gaps in conventional trainee are. But if you are serious about building an international high-leverage skill set across legal, tax, digital assets, AI, and cross-border work, that is what the advanced programs and implementation cohorts are for. Not to give you more information, but to change how you operate, alongside professionals from different countries and disciplines working on real structures, real problems, and real cross-border challenges. Because international carriers are not built on knowledge alone. They are built on the ability to operate where most professionals stop. See you there!